Okay, I've already started into this, but I said, what the heck, let's do a quick repair video. This is a Sun Electric Corporation Dwell Tach tester, Tach Dwell tester, TDT-11. It was brought to me with a problem. It is a vintage piece of equipment. It's in good condition. However, it had one problem. The previous owner, I've already got the battery cover off here to show you. They want to get it running, and I've talked to other mechanics who have used these, and they said usually just the batteries are the problem. And sure enough, it has a D battery up here, and this is as it was found. It was found with two of these 9 volts in parallel, so someone sort of knew what they were doing. And let me get it out of its cabinet here. Okay, so in the battery compartment it says for the Dwell side and the Tach side, it tells you what kind of battery. A D cell for the Dwell, or a 266 Everready, which I'll show you is this battery over here. That's the Everready 266, one of those 9 volts with this wide separated connections on the top. They still sell this battery, by the way, for about $35, and it's made up of 24, must be AA cells or something like that. They're made up of 24 1.5 volt batteries paralleled 4 times. 6 times 4 makes the 24, and it gives us 9 volts. 9 volts, 3 of them in parallel. Anyway, I went ahead and checked the D cell in here, and it was dated. Oh, let's see what the March 2013 Best Buy. So again, this is how we found the battery compartment. We don't have an Everready 266 in there, but what the issue was is there's no connector. What do you do? I'll show you in a moment. I'll take a look through the inside, but there's no connector. And so you search online like anyone else would do, and we find something online. There's the battery connector, the 266 with the battery in it. This is someone else's who's restoring one. Problem is, they have pictures. No pictures of the inside, okay? Shows the battery, shows the corrosion. Getting warmer. Pictures. No picture. Low battery, we know. No picture of where to attach the battery. So what do? No schematics available, nothing is available for this thing. Where do you attach the battery? Let me get some focus here. I'm trying to come up with a year on this. I don't know if that's 67. 8 is the 8th week of 67. I don't know. Somewhere in the 60s or 70s. I've been trying to read some dates off the components. This was probably made a number of years. Okay, but in any event, it has 1 transistor, 1 electrolytic, some foil caps. And the D battery is good. Alright, back to the subject at hand. How on earth do you possibly find out where the battery went, where the 9 volt battery went, without damaging it? And just so happens over here, this GE radio, when I search it, this GE radio here happens to use that same type battery. Which, by the way, when we powered this up, it has I think I paid $1 for this radio. Very weak audio. It does pick up stations, but barely audible. But it does work. But we'll save this for a later repair. But you can see it has the connector. You can't get these connectors. You can buy rivets and make one yourself out of cardboard, but here's what we're going to do. That's a 2500 milliamp battery, amp hour battery. 9 volts are typically like, I'd say like 500 or so, I think I looked up. So 2 in parallel, alright, 1000 milliamp hours. Still under half of what this unit is looking for, but nonetheless, I did a check on it, and it doesn't draw that much. Negligible amperage, 0.100 milliamps or something like that. So maybe with today's batteries, I'm going to do the same thing. Here's what I plan to do with this. Well, first of all, let me get back to the subject at hand. We can put some batteries in this. Where do you attach them? Well, here's what we did. Took nothing available online, no schematics, no diagram. So I did this. You have to get your flatbed scanner that no one has many of anymore, and break it open and get the little lens out of it. I've showed you this before. And you can also use the bars if you happen to come across one that has the chrome bars in it. You can use the chrome bars to heat up your old capacitors and push the wax out of them. I did crack one of these, unfortunately, and I have that piece, but I dropped it. Any event, so again, get yourself a flatbed scanner and get the I use this as a loupe. And radios from the 70s or whatever that had wires tacked all over the circuit boards, and you flexing it around and one falls off, you're in the same boat. You're pretty much screwed if a wire breaks off. And this was before digital cameras and everything. You're basically screwed. So what I've come to do in the past when this sort of thing happens is I look and I look and I look close and close and close and close at every terminal, every switch, I'm looking for fragments of that where those wires attached. So after going through almost every connection on the switch and knowing from the other picture online that it's not attached to the top of the chassis, I concentrated on the bottom of the chassis, and I was looking and I was looking and I was looking, and here's what I came across. If you notice this terminal, it also does have a red wire, so I was suspicious of this. But if you look here, and I'll do it under some magnification, and I found what I assume would be the positive wire. So if you look real close at that, you can see the remnants of the broken wire. It's hard to show on camera, but and then there was some sort of green sludgy corrosion on this green wire here. You can still see some of it. I cleaned it up, but same thing. I looked at that one, dismissed it at first, but then the ground is usually what corrodes. So I looked closely, and there, you'll have to take my word for it, was the other wires connection. So they're basically right next to each other. So what I did was I just powered up my power supply, the bench power supply over here, and we'll put it on 9 volts, and yeah, close enough. And I watched the current because I didn't want to burn anything up. So guessing game as it is, I attached the this is all I did. I just attached the negative here to what I feel was the negative side after close examination, and I'll attach the positive to the positives right here. 9 volts. Try and get a good bite on that. And then I literally just brought it over to the battery check here. And it's spring loaded. So to check the battery, you do that, and it's in the good. I'll put this on the tripod to show you. Well, I may just set the camera down. I'm going to test the battery there. And it's 0.01 amps, so 1, 2 to 10 milliamps it's drawing in the battery check. So I'm gonna lower the voltage. That's 6.5. So the top scale is probably reading, let me bring it up to 9 volts. Nope, 9.2, 9 volts right there. So this is reading roughly what the battery does, right at about 9 volt scale there. 900 on the meter. Oh, just a tad over. So I'm going to call this a go. I cannot test the dwell and the Tach or whatnot, so what are we going to do now that we've determined our positive and negative of the battery? Well, what I'm going to do here is I've just got some dollar store batteries here. If it worked before with this setup, I'm just going to take some positive and negative wires. I'm going to mark the chassis, and from our Radio Shack going out of business special here, I've picked up a package of the 9 volt. I grabbed a package of the 9 volt battery clips. So we're just going to attach these in parallel, and I got some heat shrink tubing. I'll just heat shrink them together, wire it in, button this up, and get it back to the owner. I just want you to see the quality of the construction of this is very good. It's built really well. Okay, I've gone ahead and again, I'm an advocate of the mechanical connection. You could pull on these wires. I haven't soldered them yet. You can't simply place the wire and let the solder do the bonding and do the work. That's not the way it's set up. Solder over time gets resistance, and it's just not meant to hold the connections together. Solid mechanical connection. I've seen some, and some of you may want to choose to do that. That's your decision. But military grade soldering, you don't just simply place a loop around something and expect the solder to do the work. I'm an advocate for the strong mechanical connection. It would never fly in the military. Enough on that. So same thing. I'm going to hook and loop the 9 volt battery leads, and hook and loop, fasten, crimp, and then solder. You need some mechanical means, in my opinion, but that's what I was taught. Mechanical connections, and I was taught by military spec solderers. So anyway, enough of that. Okay, there we go. You've seen me solder in other videos. I didn't solder while I'm killing. That's still a little hot there. Okay, I may touch that one up just a tad more. Okay, there are connections. Bright, shiny, and they're tight as anything. And I always clean them with a little flux off cleaner on a little brush. Just get a little brush, get the flux off there, because over time that eats the connections, I'm told. Alright, next on to the battery, the 9 volts. Okay, even with the 9 volt battery leads, hook and loop. It's kind of hard to do without adding solder while I'm doing it, so I'm going to go off camera. I've already done the negative. Okay, so even without the solder applied, the wires will still be together. The solder is just helping it. We'll just slide up cleaned off our connections, just slide up our heat shrink tubing over it, shrink them up, and we'll be done with this part. And I did go in, I did mark the just the terminals in the future in case anybody needs red and black. So if these wires in another 50 years should corrode off, someone will know where to attach them. Okay, there's our heat shrink connections there. Here's our 2 batteries attached. And I did test the battery meter with each one attached. Now they're in parallel, which means you'll get twice the current, same voltage out of these. Okay, and why mess with success? I'm going to take them, wrap them in this foam again, just as they were, and stick them back in there, and I'll show you on the meter here the battery check is very much in the good. I'm going to take one look at, when we get this together, I'm going to take one last final pan of the chassis. Oh, and the D cell is still good. So we're going to leave him in there. Okay, as I had mentioned earlier, I'll just do one slow pan of the chassis. That transistor positioning there. Underneath. It's a 16 volt, 640 microfarad capacitor there. Okay, and we'll button it up. Alright, so that'll do it for the Sun Electric Tach Dwell Tester TDT-11. Not sure if that's the factory knob. It seems to cover the name, but okay. I'll do battery check one more time. It's good. Well, the dwell is the amount of time the points are open. That's called the dwell, in case some of you younger folks may not have ever had a car with points before, but it's been since about 1980 since I had a car with points, but measures the time the points are open, I believe. And over here, those are the rivets I was telling you about. Looks like you can buy to make your own battery, but I don't think that'll be necessary for this. Okay, that'll do it for this. Thanks for watching. We'll do one more thing. Slide this GE over here. While we're at it, we have our leads connected on this, and you have to be careful with this. Make sure you have the polarity correct, because these old radios don't have backwards protection. Typically a diode is usually placed in the newer radios to protect it from a reverse polarity power up, but anyway, let's give us some 9 volts here. 9 volts over here. Turn this sucker on. I'm not a big, and you can hear it. It does have audio. It's just not much life. That's wide open. The GE model P755. Have to be careful of these leads over here. Well, without testing the transistors, I'm sure they're germanium. That's wide open. Dry capacitors. It does pick up stations. It's very weak. Okay, so that's the two devices that happen to use the ever-ready 266 battery. That'll do it for the Sun Dwell Tach meter. Thanks for watching. While we're on the radio thing, one last thing. When we were down visiting Old 64 Goat in, am I saying it right, Aflocket, Connecticut? And this was in a box of junk, and I'm thinking, well, we'll take it for parts or whatever. Now it has this black and red wire coming out of it. I'll show you, and it's tapped somewhere. Well, I have the speaker in the way, but it's somewhere near the output transistors. But it doesn't seem to be a speaker output, because or a power connection. It might be another speaker output, but it doesn't appear to be. And the antenna is broken and hanging here, and you know, it's just a carcass of a transistor radio. No markings, no brand, nothing on the speaker. Transistors, they have this funny brand on them. Let me get some focus here. Yeah, those are Toshiba transistors there. Okay, so anyway, here's this radio we chuck in a box. Antenna's broken. Use it for parts, whatever, transistors, whatever we may need. But the funny thing is, I attach power to it, and I turned it on, and the darn thing works.
That number is 143 million. So it's certainly a percent of the overall base. I mean, not everyone in China is going to be able to buy an iPhone 6 Plus, but it's still a pretty large number. And the interesting thing is that growth, that 143 million, all of that
and you
really...
can turn the dial. Well, you get the idea. That's hard to turn with just the stub here.
670 today.
Have you heard? Proactive Plus is faster and better than ever.
I didn't mark where the wires are, if they should ever break off.
Skin, acne? Well, we have great news. With Proactive Plus, your acne
Green.
can heal, and you can help prevent
did a
new
blue,
breakouts from happening.
red,
Don't miss this limited time
and
offer.
like
Give
an
us
earth
a
tone
call at
color. I did black.
800-566-4017, because we're going to let a
So,
million people try Proactive Plus
broken
risk-free
radios,
and get 2 free gifts.
working
And also
radios that look
receive free
broken.
shipping when you call right now.
I don't know what the 2 wires were for.
So call Proactive Plus now, and you'll receive a 60-day risk-free trial of Proactive Plus, 2 free extras, and
They don't
free
go to the
shipping.
speaker
Call
terminals
800-566-4017.
or the power that I'm aware. That's ground.
Never on TV.
It goes
Get your
right here,
risk-free
which is
60-day trial of Proactive Plus with free
on the
shipping.
side of that
That's
transformer
right, free
there.
shipping. Don't wait. Call 800-566-4017.
Anyway, that'll do it for now. Thanks for watching.